Okay, we're doing a lot of whiplash today. I hope you have a nice neck pillow because we're going from the best game of the week to maybe the worst game of the week. That's also one of the highest scoring to potentially the lowest scoring game of all time. We have Rutgers on the road at number 22 Iowa. The Hawkeyes are 1-point favorites. Kelly, this game carries an over-under of 28.5 points.
Brett, again, and you made the note, it's the lowest opening total in FBS history. I understand because we're talking about Iowa here, and to be fair, like Rutgers, not to that level, but they're stronger on the defensive side and have struggled on offense at times this year. That to me, though, this game, just on the surface, if you said this is the game that has the lowest opening total of any FBS game in history, I would have said no way. Like, this just doesn't feel to me like it should open lower than some of the Army-Navy games that we've seen recently. Any Iowa game against other teams that they played recently. That's surprising to me. It really is. I'm not saying that it's not going to go under. I'm saying it's surprising to me that this is the game that odds makers said we're going to go down to 28.5. It's surprising.
Before I comment on that, because I will, this game does kick off at 3:30 p.m. Eastern on Big Ten Network. That's where this game belongs. A game like this is absolutely Big Ten Network material. Kelly, I took under 28.5.
Yes.
I did. These Iowa games aren't coming anywhere near. Like, they're not. 20 is honestly probably a more appropriate over-under for this game, but no one in their minds would rightfully hang that number. They just won't. Out of principle, I don't know, out of something, they just won't hang 20, but in my opinion, that's where this game should be at.
I'm looking back. So last week, 17 was the total. The week before that, they were off. The week before that was Minnesota, 22 was the total. Wisconsin before that was 21. Like, that was a total that was scored in the game. Prior to that, though, their lowest total was 31 prior to that one. So they've, in the last 3 games, had outings of 22 or less. Prior to that, though, it was 31 or more. So,
and
for trends.
And who's been the quarterback lately?
You're right.
I'll talk about
you're right. You're right.
One of your guys, one of your absolute favorites, somebody you credit with helping the foundation of K Ford ratings, Brian Fremeau, he projects an 8-5 final. His numbers give you just a shade over 13 total, and he's pretty sharp on totals.
He is. Brian's great. If Brian says this game's going to have a total of 13, let's see what Bill Connolly says. And if he says it's going to be down there near 22, Brett, by all means, put down 2 units on the under 28.5.
But from one really good Brian to one really bad Brian Ferentz is he's working on an expired contract. He's gone after the bowl game. That was big, sad news. We saw that happening. Rutgers, on the other hand, they were actually able to get things going on the ground against Ohio State. Iowa has not allowed 100 yards on the ground in 4 of the last 5 games, and they only allowed a $113 to Minnesota. That's it. So we're talking right around 100. Teams are not getting over that. This is probably unpopular. I know it's unpopular because I've said it to other people. As unlucky as that pick 6 was for Rutgers against Ohio State, look, they had a double snap play. Ohio State's punter went rogue and didn't pick up a first down. I'm not convinced the Ohio State cover was as fraudulent as it was preached. The reason being, Greg Schiano, man loves his field goals. You're not going to beat Ohio State with field goals because your talent is not going to win out. But Kelly, you might be able to beat Iowa with field goals if we're being honest here. Now, will Rutgers get inside the 5-yard line as often as they did against Ohio State against Iowa? I don't know. In my estimation, Iowa's defense is a little bit friskier than Ohio State's. They create a bit more havoc. They broke out all the stops last week, in my opinion, at home, and now they're on the road in a very, very difficult environment to play in, especially when you start getting into November. The Iowa's offense isn't even worth breaking down. I don't know, man. Cooper DeJean did play offense, finally, which is great, and he actually looked really good. People have been calling for that since, last year. The quarterback, Deacon Hill, I did ask who the quarterback was. That's who's playing right now. He has the highest drop rate in the country, but even without the drops and throwaways, he has just a 58.5% adjusted completion rate. Awful. And I don't know that that's all scheme. That's a little bit of talent when you start talking about that. That's why I asked about the recent results, because that's what their team is today. Rutgers against Ohio State was missing their stud nose tackle and their top linebacker. That linebacker is out for the year, so they won't have him back, but they're expected to get their nose tackle back. but they still did a pretty decent job last week. I'm going to say they were very out-talented by Trevion Henderson and Chip Trayanum, but I still thought they did an okay job against the run. All right, what do your numbers say?
Iowa's a ranked team, man, and they deserve to be. I have them number 25 and my most deserving. The committee's got them there in the top 25 as well. So it just highlights a point I've made before. It's such a shame for the Iowa fan base, for the state of Iowa. I mean, don't tell the Cyclone fans, but like this team has just been set back by the offense for not just this year, not just last year, for years now. And it's such a shame because if they just had an offense with a pulse, this team would be contending not just for the Big Ten, as they have in recent years, but for spots in the CFP on a year in and year out basis. It seems the defense has just been so good. Brett, the game has a watchability score of 7.5. I have often been criticized for having games that involve Iowa so, quote, highly rated in the watchability scores. There's nothing in my formula for watchability that explicitly downgrades teams or game scores for bad offense. I understand that in today's American society, we like to see points. That transcends just football. That's every sport. You want to see offense. That's what's exciting. That's what people want to see. I enjoy good defense better than good offense, if I'm being completely honest. I know I'm in the minority on that, but the watchability scores aren't looking at, your points per game on offense or your offensive power ranking for the unit. So 7.5. It's pretty darn good. I expect this to be a competitive game. Again, Iowa is a top 40 power rated team. Their resume's in the top 25. And Rutgers is a pretty darn good team too in their own right, especially for where that program's been in recent years. So I have Iowa -4 in this game. So 61% win expectancy. By now, we all know the story about Iowa. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on it. The defense, they're elite. They're number 2 in the nation for me, behind only Michigan. The offense is horrific. They're number 122. It's the worst of any Power 5 offense in the entire country, and it's not necessarily that close. But overall, from a power rating standpoint, Iowa now has a power rating of 5.7, a corresponding ranking of number 40. This is the worst the Hawkeyes have been power rated all season by my numbers. So they're trending in the wrong direction. It still might not matter, though, Brett, at least in the Big Ten West race. Iowa is currently a huge favorite. They'll still be the favorite in that race, even if they lose to Rutgers this week. It's a conference game, but not a division game, which in the Big Ten West, those division games are like gold, and they give them away like candy on Halloween. You see it every single year. But anyway, Iowa, they're in a good spot. Even if they lose this one, they're probably going to be in Indianapolis. If they can get the win here, it would only bolster those chances all the better. While this is the worst that Iowa's been power rated all year, Brett, with a 4.2 rating this week, it's the best that Rutgers has been power rated all season for me. It's 6-3. Rutgers has 2.3 more wins than my preseason realistic expectations projected for Rutgers through week 10. That's good enough for number 9 in my overachievers list. Greg Schiano doing a great job in Piscataway yet again. This is not his first time there, and he's doing it again, pulling off the magic that we've seen before. Scarlet Knights offense is number 76, but that's the defense, as I talked about earlier, that's really impressive. They're number 32. Both defenses are the stronger unit in this game by quite a bit. We understand that's why the opening total here is the lowest you've seen in FBS history. But like I said, that does surprise me a little bit, that this is the game that Oddsmaker said we're going down to 28.5. I know you bet the under, Brent, and I know Brian's saying 8-5. I would absolutely love an 8-5 scoreline. Are you kidding me? That would be incredible and so fitting. I'm still surprised, though, that this is it, because I think this Iowa defense and the special teams, they can score 14 points. Like, they can do it right there on their own. They don't do it every week, of course, but they have the talent and ability on that side of the ball, especially when they're playing offenses that have the profile of a Rutgers, to do that. So bottom line, Iowa -4. It's a 39% chance that Rutgers earns their first ever win, Brett, in this series against the Hawkeyes. They are currently 0-3 all time in a series that dates all the way back to Rutgers' illustrious career in the Big Ten, history of the Big Ten. 2016 was the first meeting for these programs.
I said that I took the under. I'm also taking Iowa at the points. In my opinion, they're just the better team, cut and dry, at least defensively. I think that defense is plenty good enough. Rutgers' offense does not scare me. Like I said, they broke out kind of all the stops last week in a last grasp effort. And I like Rutgers. Like, I do. They're a great team, having a fantastic season. Let's not get carried away here. I'm not taking Iowa on the money line because I don't see fair value there based on the spread. But if you're taking -1, at the very worst, if they win by 1, then you push, and it's not a loss. But yeah, Iowa -1 for me, even though Rutgers has been taking the points. I think a lot of that is because it's so low of a total, you can take the points. Like that's just traditional betting, savviness. But no, Iowa's the better team to me. I'm laying the point.
They're at home. They're at home.
And they're at home. Yes, and Kinnick Stadium is. You mean to tell me that people are favoring Rutgers on neutral field? No thanks.
That's my numbers. My numbers aren't, Brett. That's why I got Iowa -4, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm not. So I think there's value here for what you're talking about.
Market's telling me that I don't buy it. Iowa's the better football team. I'm taking Iowa here.